In the early 1960s, beat music exploded out of Liverpool with an infectious energy that captivated listeners around the world. Even today, the sound is instantly transfixing, taking you to another space and time. With its catchy melodies, driving rhythms, and feel-good lyrics, beat music brought youth culture to the forefront and set the stage for the British invasion. The upbeat Merseybeat sound soon evolved into the harder, edgier Freakbeat style. But as the decade progressed, this once dominant sound began to give way to a new wave of musical experimentation and complexity. The once vibrant scene eventually becomes unrecognizable as change creeps in. It seems as though the beat music scene that had lifted society up and united people around the world evaporated just like that. So, what is it about beat music that keeps generations coming back to explore the transcendent characteristics of that time? The sound represents a period of togetherness, simplicity, and shared enthusiasm, making it not just a genre but a cultural symbol that resonates with people's desire for connection. The footage and sound from this period is like another world you can travel back to. Join us as we unravel the story of how beat music evolved and soon faded into the era's changing taste during a time of chaos in the rapid evolution of the 60s music scene.
The back streets are how I imagine London looked 100 years ago. Drab, dirty, whose only colour lies in the people. If I was going to make a film on Jack the Ripper, this could be the setting. Because Liverpool was a town that grew up in a hurry and was virtually built in the last half of the last century, it has now grown old. There are reputedly 80,000 slum dwellings and 30,000 unemployed. This poverty is another reason for the beat groups. Children have to make their own entertainment.
Before the Beatles rose to prominence, the Mersey area was already home to a vibrant and prolific music scene. Liverpool's access to American rock and roll and R&B records set the stage for beat music. American freedom echoed through the 1950s records of Buddy Holly and Little Richard. In imitation of all things American, working-class youth in particular found a way to transcend their dreary past and what were still formidable class boundaries. Beat music became the great escape. By the early 1960s, over 300 bands were playing in and around the Liverpool area. This bustling local scene included skiffle groups, rock and roll bands, and R&B acts, each contributing to what would become known as the Merseybeat sound. American records that came in through the Liverpool port made their way through the community by the people bringing them over from the States, eventually into the record stores and to the local DJs. Bob Wooler, a DJ, used to take his records around the local clubs, and the bands like the Beatles would compete to get the newest records to be the first to play them at local spots such as the Cavern Club. Wooler eventually became the DJ at the Cavern Club. Bill Harry, who started Merseybeat magazine, was instrumental in supporting and publicising the bands, helping build the Merseybeat identity as a cultural phenomenon. Merseybeat is a distinctly Liverpool sound characterised by its upbeat rhythms and harmonised vocals. The sound, known for its characteristics of strong 4-beat rhythms and a driving backbeat, Merseybeat was inherently danceable. The bass guitar played a central role, keeping the rhythm grounded and emphasising a fast-paced, toe-tapping beat that invited listeners to dance. Clubs and venues like the Cavern Club, the Iron Door and the Jacaranda provided these bands with regular performance spaces where they developed their sound and honed their live skills.
Now we have one of the veterans of Liverpool Beat, one of the first personalities on this scene, Rory Storm and the Hurricanes, who started 7 years ago.
Rory Storm and the Hurricanes were a popular group in Liverpool's club scene and featured Ringo Starr on drums before he joined the Beatles.
Well, I can tell by the way that you look at me.
The Beatles hung out with them in Hamburg in 1960 when they were both playing the Kaiserkeller.
it's so plain to see. Ah, the way you smile and hold my hand. Why, yes, pretty baby, I can understand. I can tell, I can tell. I know you don't love me no more. I'm gonna tell your mama, gonna tell your papa too. Well, just what more can a man do?
This night, Rory, one of my fellow workers, with a piece of toast and the, you know, because he didn't want jam on it, he gets quite if his temper's aroused. And so I thought, oh, you know. So anyway, he said he'd give us a lift home. Very friendly, considering, you know. So he left me in Walton Cemetery.
Well, no, you don't love me no more, no more.
When I was about 12, I decided I wanted to be a priest. Well, I tried that for about 3 years, and I discovered women. Do you know the Beatles?
We used to be big mates before we got all famous. But, you know, we still talk to them when we see them, but we don't often see them now. Because, you know, they're always away. But they're great, you know, George is fabulous, you know.
Ah, the way you smile and hold my hand. Oh, yeah, pretty baby, I can understand. Well, I can tell, I know you don't love me no more. Well, I can tell. Well, I know you don't love me.
It was the Beatles who were on that night, and the girls had been queuing up all night, and when they got in, there must have been about 700 of them there. The Beatles come on the stage, and the sweat was dripping off the walls, off the ceilings. Oh, the atmosphere was damp, and the sweat must have dripped onto the fuses, fused all the amplifiers, so they couldn't play. So what they done, they got the crowd joining in with them, singing, and with just the drums playing, all the girls singing. Then they fixed the amps, they went on, and all the girls, as soon as they come on, all the girls screaming, shouting, pushing to see them, and you just couldn't hear any music, you just saw them. So the girls go home, say to their mother, oh, we heard the Beatles tonight, and matter of fact, they've waited about 10 hours outside just to see them, never heard them at all.
The Beatles came down themselves about 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock, and they were talking to us and signing autographs, and then they went away, and then we sort of all sat down, and some of the lazy ones sort of fell asleep, but the rest of us just kept awake on coffee and dreams of the Beatles.
A session at the Cavern is underway, and they've got a Manchester group, the Codells, yelling for attention.
Down on my knees and pray that they'd go away, but still they begin.
The Searchers formed in 1959 and were one of Liverpool's earliest Merseybeat groups and contributed to the early sound. The Searchers were known for their meticulous approach to harmonies and arrangement. This attention to musical detail set them apart and gave their hits like Needles and Pins and Sweets for My Sweet, a polished sound that helped define Merseybeat.
Don't throw your love away. No, 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 no. Don't throw your love away. Yeah.
Liverpool's music community was tightly knit, with bands often sharing members, competing for gigs and drawing influence from each other. The success of early groups created a sense of local excitement and laid a fertile groundwork for the Beatles and the British invasion that would follow. These bands didn't just play music, they ignited a music revolution that set the stage for something even bolder.
I was immediately struck by their music, their beat, and their sense of humour actually on stage. And even afterwards, when I met them, I was struck again by their personal charm. And it was there that really it all started.
It's up to you. I think it's only fair. I can hurt you too.
So ferry, cross the Mersey, 'cause this land.
Jerry and the Pacemakers were the second group, managed by Brian Epstein. Epstein saw potential in their catchy sound and helped guide them in shaping their early career. Under his management, Jerry and the Pacemakers achieved something remarkable. They became the first band to have their first 3 singles reach #1 on the UK charts with How Do You Do It, I Like It, and You'll Never Walk Alone.
I like it. I like the words you say and all the things you do.
The Swinging Blue Jeans. Another Merseybeat staple that laid the groundwork for future, heavier sounds. They had a 3-year spell of success, rising and falling with Merseybeat itself. The Swinging Blue Jeans had the standard lineup of 2 guitars, a bass guitar and drums, and achieved local fame with their appearances at the Mardi Gras Club and the Cavern Club. In January 1964, the Dave Clark Five had their first UK top 10 single, Glad All Over, which knocked the Beatles' I Want to Hold Your Hand off the top of the UK singles chart. They were the second group of the British invasion to appear on the Ed Sullivan Show in the United States. They would ultimately have 18 appearances on the show. The Dave Clark Five were one of the most commercially successful acts of the British invasion, releasing 17 top 40 hits in the US between 1964 and 67.
At the time was a guy called Ted Nibbs. He said, do you fancy going to Liverpool? I went into Liverpool and we walked into a restaurant and Brian Epstein was there. And he said, well, there's no use beating about the bush. I'd like to manage you.
Little children, you better tell on me. Hey, all you women, don't come around. On the legs you weigh, ran 400 pounds. And away from home, I don't dig shy bones.
Of £200 now claims to sell 25,000 copies every fortnight. Its editor, Bill Harry.
When we started Merseybeat 2 years ago, the Beatles were tying the mics to broomsticks. They had long haircuts and rather an untidy form of dress. All over Merseyside, the groups were wearing jeans on stage, were very sloppy, long haircuts. Worst of all, they were actually swearing on stage. So we wrote some editorials. Get your hair cut. Don't smoke on stage. Stop swearing. And we found that the groups did take notice. Smart suits on stage, a more professional outlook. And rock and roll became more of a major industry than just a hobby.
Another success of the British invasion, Herman's Hermits. Between March and August 1965 in the United States, Herman's Hermits logged 24 consecutive weeks in the top 10 of Billboard's Hot 100 with 5 singles, including the 2 number ones. In 1963, the Hollies performed at the Cavern Club, where they were seen by a parlophone producer who offered them an audition and soon signed them. The Hollies started with Merseybeat-style pop harmonies, eventually incorporating edgier rock elements.
That umbrella, we employed it. By August, she was well, no one told me about her, the way she lied.
In 1964, the Zombies won a £250 cash prize in a beat group competition sponsored by the London Evening News. They signed a recording contract with Decca and recorded their first hit, She's Not There. It peaked at number 12 in the UK, becoming their only UK top 40 hit. The tune began to catch on in the United States and eventually climbed to number 2.
The way she looked, the way she had tan, the color of her hair, her voice was soft and cool.
But as the decade rolled on, something started to shift. The catchy tunes and harmonies of Merseybeat evolved, turning grittier, harder-edged and more experimental. Fuzzed-out guitars, distorted vocals and pounding rhythms emerged as the next wave of British rock, a sound we now know as Freakbeat. Bands like the Yardbirds, the Pretty Things and The Creation took the upbeat energy of Merseybeat and pushed it into wild, uncharted territory, transforming British rock into a raw expression of rebellion and experimentation. This experimentation can be traced once again to the Beatles. George Martin encouraged them to experiment with complex harmonies, multi-tracked vocals and arrangements that weren't typical of Merseybeat at the time. Martin's classical background and willingness to experiment transformed tracks, giving Merseybeat a polished, dynamic sound that other Liverpool bands hadn't yet explored. In 1964, while recording I Feel Fine, John Lennon was playing his guitar through an amplifier. During one of the takes, Lennon leaned his guitar against the amp and created a loud, sustained feedback sound, an accident caused by the proximity of the guitar to the amplifier. Instead of scrapping the take or re-recording it, Lennon, along with producer George Martin, found the feedback sound intriguing. The band decided to keep it in the final version of the song. The feedback at the beginning of I Feel Fine is often regarded as the first use of guitar feedback on a pop record, marking a turning point in how rock music approached sound experimentation.
This is Radio Caroline on 199, England's first commercial radio station.
Pirate radio stations like Radio Caroline began broadcasting in 1964 off the coast of the UK, outside British jurisdiction. These stations played rock and roll, R&B, and freakbeat singles that were often ignored by mainstream radio. Pirate radio gave bands like the Yardbirds, the Pretty Things, and the Who an underground platform to reach audiences who craved edgier music. Freakbeat evolved as a transitional genre between the upbeat, mod-oriented sound of swinging London into the more experimental psychedelic sounds that followed. This style acted as a bridge between the polished, danceable sounds of the mod scene and the experimental, consciousness-expanding music of the psychedelic era. Freakbeat songs were typically louder, grittier, and more intense than earlier British pop or mod music. The Yardbirds' changing guitarists, beginning with Eric Clapton contributing to their blues-influenced rock sound, then began to evolve with Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page. They began pioneering distortion and feedback central to Freakbeat. The Yardbirds' experimentation with Freakbeat-style riffs and effects directly influenced psychedelic music. The Who are known for their aggressive style. The band's sound evolved from mod to freakbeat with powerful tracks like My Generation.
Don't try to dig what we all say. You really got me going.
The Kinks' loud, distorted guitar riff, played by Dave Davies, achieved by a slice he made in the speaker cone of his El Pico amplifier, helped with the song's signature, gritty guitar sound. You Really Got Me has been described as a blueprint song in the psychedelic and hard rock arsenal.
I'm not content to be here. Tell you why it's all too beautiful.
The Small Faces began as an influential mod band with catchy beat songs evolving into a more experimental psychedelic band of the late 60s. Similarly, the Action began as a mod favourite with their upbeat Motown remakes and then later evolved into the psychedelic era with their 1968 experimental masterpiece Brain.
Your brain, it's time to go. You don't have long to go.
The Pretty Things began with R&B and developed a harder sound with fuzz and distortion, moving into Freakbeat. The Score's 1966 cover of the Beatles' Please Please Me exemplifies the change from Mersey to Freakbeat using a melodic Beatles Merseybeat song, but with charging drums, the sort of bass playing McCartney used on Revolver, and an in-your-face vocal.
I know you'll never even try, girl. Please, please be one, yeah, like I please you.
The creation, known for feedback-heavy tracks like Making Time, epitomized Freakbeat's gritty aesthetic.
Always singing the same old song, same old song, the same old song.
But don't come any closer. No, knock on hers bread.
Just Four Men was a Merseybeat band that morphed into Wimple Winch, a psychedelic band with the song Rumble on Mersey Square South.
All is peace and quiet in our little town.
By 1966, the first overtly psychedelic songs began taking root. The Byrds' 8 Miles High, the Beatles' Tomorrow Never Knows, and Pink Floyd's Interstellar Overdrive ushered in a new era of psychedelic themes and experimental sounds, building on the groundwork laid by beat music.
Turn off your mind, relax and float downstream. Great town, known for its sound.
Merseybeat's appeal lay in its catchy, pop-oriented melodies and harmonies, which resonated widely with young audiences. As the audiences grew older, Freakbeat took this pop sensibility and amped it up, adding aggressive guitar distortion, heavier beats and more intense vocal styles. Bands like The Who and The Kinks transitioned from Merseybeat-inspired songs to Freakbeat with tracks that had harder edges, capturing a more rebellious attitude that matched the countercultural mood of the mid-60s. Freakbeat contributed to the development of the British psychedelic movement by normalizing experimentalism within popular music. Merseybeat's success demonstrated that British bands could innovate and resonate internationally, while Freakbeat introduced experimental effects, fuzz guitar, and distorted sounds that would become central to psychedelic music. Freakbeat's move towards mind-expanding sounds and production techniques built on Merseybeat's appeal, evolving British rock toward a more boundary-pushing direction. This shift marked a departure from beat music's straightforward, pop-oriented sound and made beat music seem comparatively simple and outdated. As the 60s progressed, listeners became interested in deeper, more complex themes around social issues, introspection, and countercultural ideas. Artists responded with lyrics exploring topics like altered consciousness and societal change, making beat music's light-hearted lyrics feel less relevant. Many prominent beat bands evolved beyond the genre into Freakbeat, and a few into psychedelic music. The Beatles, being the most obvious example, moved from their early Merseybeat sound to groundbreaking albums like Revolver and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which leaned heavily into psychedelic and experimental territory. This progression was mirrored by other bands, including the Zombies and The Who, who sought new directions to stay innovative, while other bands simply could not shift with the times. The psychedelic era of LSD and hippie gear clashed with beat music's clean-cut, optimistic image and sound. Before long, many of the Merseybeat bands faded into obscurity along with the beat music scene as swinging London became a mecca for the psychedelic era.
It's getting near dawn.
The Liverpool club scene sparked a movement that still continues to influence and inspire musicians. Bands such as The Strokes infused their garage rock with beat-inspired melodies and rhythms. Catchy songs with beat-influenced hooks helped shape their tight, rhythm-driven sound. A slew of other bands followed suit. The very fact that so many bands continued to emulate the Merseybeat sound is a testament to the powerful influence it had on music and society at large. The beat music scene influenced fashion, hairstyles, and attitudes, allowing fans to adopt a visible expression of their musical tastes. This fusion of music and style allowed people to express their identity through their musical preferences. Beat music promoted the idea that self-expression in music didn't have to follow strict conventions. The success of bands writing about what mattered to them encouraged other musicians to explore their creativity freely.
They can't resist your smile. Oh, they long for dandy, dandy.
This led to a culture of self-expression that encouraged individuality and laid the groundwork for the experimentation that developed into other subgenres. Society became much more open than it ever was before once the energy and optimism of beat music swept the world via the Mersey River. Be sure to check out the upcoming video on the psychedelic music scene.
It's paper. It's a record.
If you think about it, I've been under pressure since I was 21 or 2.
Sixteen.